when you're a kid, nothing is better than the holiday. And then you don't have kids and you're like, whatever.
Yeah.
Then you have kids and now holidays are cool again because you get to do it for them.
Yeah.
I think that is true.
What's up, Dave?
Rob, how are you?
Doing well. I'm back in my original digs. The sign is up.
It just took you like a month and a half to get the sign straight. That's good.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
I needed some help. My wife had to come help me, and she looked at it from a variety of different perspectives to make sure that it looks straight.
Mhm.
So I'll get fewer digs and comments about
Mhm.
its wonkiness.
Mhm. Did anybody think about putting a level on it?
What's that?
Did anybody think about putting a level on it?
No, it seems like a lot
No.
of work, Dave.
No, okay. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Completely by I trust
How
myself.
many psychologists does it take to hang a neon sign?
But yeah, I'm glad to have it back up. It brings a lot of vibrance to our show, I think.
You're a vibrant guy, Rob.
I agree. I have a question. A cat hoodie.
Do yeah. What of it? What is something you want to say?
I'm struggling for it. I think cat. I think Dave. And I think, what is he trying? What is he pretending to be now with a cat hoodie?
I have a lot. I only know I've gone. Let's just take about 25 minutes talking about this because I have a lot of thoughts. So first of all, Carhartt has now become a building brand,
Yep.
right? And it has become very in vogue with the hipsters.
Yes. Yes.
And it went
Ubiquitous.
from good, clothing for construction to now it's hipster clothing. Now it's exorbitant. And I have a lot of negative thoughts about like you can't wear Carhartt unless you're a builder. Take off the Carhartt sweatshirt.
Okay.
Okay. So then I go to Costco. Costco is selling this sweatshirt for like $19. And I go, that's a hell of a steal. And then I go, okay, but am I a builder?
No.
Not, excuse me, you don't know. I might be wrong. Maybe I've got a woodshed
No,
downstairs.
I'm fairly certain I know you well. I'm sure it'd be comical to watch you, as it would be me. No shade. I'm not good at it either, but I can't imagine you're all that good. I think you want to be.
I would like to be. I do have a fantasy about
Yeah.
having having a separate YouTube channel that's just all about me doing my woodworking. But anyway, so I go $19. It's a steal, and then I felt anxiety about wearing it because I'm like, but I'm not a builder, and like, is this me doing the Carhartt thing? And then I had somebody on one of my videos where I wore this sweatshirt, and he was like, "You don't really look like much of a builder, man." So anyway,
It's not just me.
so it's not just you, and I have a little bit of shame about it, and I also love the sweatshirt, so I'm,
Okay.
it's better than Carhartt though, right?
Yeah. I mean, Carhartt. Yeah, I remember like in the 2000s. Yeah, it was Carhartt was just a bunch of like carpenter jeans and for people who actually were on a construction site or were painting. Yeah, now
Yeah,
I've seen Carhartt brands at like department stores
yeah,
and like snooty shops.
yeah,
I'm like, oh, this is Carhartt, and you want me to pay $100 for this T-shirt?
yeah, yeah,
So I agree with you. I mean, good for them, I guess. They
I'd
got the
do it if I were.
hipsters, and the hipsters said, I wanted to take this $10 T-shirt and make it cost 10
Mhm.
times its price, and that's going to work. So good for them.
I have applied for a job with Caterpillar. Okay.
When?
When I graduate, for my dissertation, I created a measure of corporate safety culture. And I couldn't decide if I wanted to go in-house or outside as a consultant, or do I want to work inside of an
Right.
organization? And cat safety is like world renowned. And so I applied for a job with cat safety. I was talking with one of their safety leaders, and I was going to travel, like my vision was I'd be traveling around and, you know, pontificating about how to use, uh, equipment in a safe way. I did not get the job. I
Did
never
not
got
get the job.
recruited. So but that was it. But I
So
did
now
have
you
fantasies. Now
yeah,
I wear their gear.
right, and now you just pontificate on the internet.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll show see? What's up, Cat? You cannot hire me, but I'm
Look at
still
me
coming for you.
now.
Look at me now. I'm wearing wearing your merch, and I'm pontificating about
So I
what can
I
I do?
guess I guess it means they won
Yes. Well,
because they don't have to deal with you, but you're still promoting them.
that's true.
Oh, Dave. Good times.
Mhm.
Anyway, so we're gonna talk today. We're gonna continue our theme of kind of interpersonal relationships, family relationships during the holiday season for our episode today. So last week we released an episode talking about providing tips for those who have interactions with family members coming up over the next couple of weeks due to the end of the year holidays. And what you and I had talked about was, this could be a small series
Yep.
that we just talk about, end of year holiday season, some of the stressors that come along with that, and then hearing the two of us talk about some of those things. So what you all will hear today is part two of what we think will be a three-part series. Today is going to be talking about why. So we moved to tips last week. This week is why is it stressful? Why can this time of year be stressful for folks? And then just as a kind of a tantalizing preview of next week, Dave, what are we going to talk about the third and final installment of this series? Because this was your
I
idea.
First of all, I love that we're describing it as tantalizing. We are going to have some tantalizing conversations about the different characters that you encounter on a holiday.
Right.
So Rob and I were talking about you. There is a person always that you're going to interact with that's passive aggressive and doesn't openly share what they think, but they're stabbing you in the back. There's someone that's super needy and requires all kinds of extra energy and support to make them happy. There's the person that's super successful and you're jealous of them, and you spend the whole dinner trying to prove to them that you're as smart as they are. And then there's the deadbeat at the end of the table that you feel bad about, right? You all have all these different people that you have to interact
Right.
with, and you and I are going to talk about, are there different strategies for those different characters?
Right. So that'll be part three of the series. So hopefully by the end of this series, you will have all the ammunition you need to have a fantastic holiday season with your friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
But for the episode today, again, we want to talk about why. Why is it stressful? And Dave, I don't know about you, but as I was thinking through this, it was difficult for me. And this is maybe going to sound like I'm, patting myself in the back, but I would instead say I'm pretty lucky. Is as I think of my family, I am lucky because I get along with certainly my immediate family pretty well. My extended family, as I talked about last week, aunts, uncles, cousins, my in-laws. I do I have difference of opinion? Yes, but do I have a strong sense of dread or anxiety when I'm going to be around them? I don't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I would say until we had talked about this probably wouldn't have even emerged for me as a topic of conversation to be had. I mean, I know that this exists as a stressor for people, but for me personally, it does not.
Wow.
What about you?
uh, well, my family will be listening. Okay. Let me just say both things. So I think in the big scheme of things, I am very lucky in that I
Yeah.
have both sides of my family get along, very supportive. This is not a true point of distress for me.
Yeah.
And I, for myself and for my wife, there is definitely extra energy
Hmm.
that we spend ahead of the holidays, extra stress that's created by the holiday with different family members. And so I mean, I could tell you, I know I ahead of the holidays, like, have like a little self-talk about how I'm going to behave on the holidays. um Especially with my wife's family, I have to like be
Right.
like, okay, right, this is how we're going to show up. And then my wife has to do the same thing, and I even know what fights or discussions my wife and I will have after, right? So there's like different periods. We prepare for it, then we go to the holiday, and then afterwards we recover from the holiday. And I can tell
Uh-huh.
you, there is a certainly um, there is extra pressure that comes with the holidays for me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's good. So I think, and again, I've experienced it before, but I think it'll be a good conversation for the two of us to have, for you as someone who maybe doesn't have as much and can understand this more
Mhm,
intellectually,
mhm.
which would be me. And then maybe you have slightly more of those types of
I
experiences.
can give you the emotional, kind of the reactive viewpoint on it.
Yes. Which
Yeah,
would be surprising for our listeners to know that that
yeah.
would be.
Always
Yeah.
steady hand in the face of
Yeah.
chaos.
Yeah.
Yes.
um, you mentioned that your family is listening to this. When we released our episode last week on one of my cousin text chains, um, I got a text from my cousin saying, so is there something you need to tell me? And it was all to the whole cousin side. He's like, and I said, no, you guys have been giving me material to talk about,
Yeah.
fucked up families for
We should
decades.
do a whole
So
tell
thank
them
you.
we're gonna do a whole episode just on them.
I, that's great. I will. I think I have a couple. We maybe that's what we should do. That could be a series. We each take like 3 to 4 family members and just blow them up publicly.
Put a picture on the YouTube. This is who we're talking about. Yeah. That'd be fun.
Here's their cell phone number. Call them. Um, no. So one of the things I looked into again is, I think what was helpful, at least for me, is, well, is this a thing or is this just another phenomenon that people like to talk about but isn't really as big of a deal?
Mhm, mhm.
And so I was looking up just some stats, or trying to search for some online, and the APA, the American Psychological Association, put out a survey last year, around the holiday season, and essentially asked folks the same thing, like, is the holiday season more stressful, less stressful, or about the same for you? And in this survey, 41% of the people responded say they feel more stressed during the end of year holiday season than they do at any time else in the year.
Yep. Yep.
So you're just south of half of the population indicating some sort of stress. So
And I would argue that it's kind of like it kind of reminds me of COVID, where like there's an interplay of your financial position with
yes,
how you responded to COVID, right? Well, I think there's an interplay of your sort of level of stability or your level of stress and your response to the holiday. So if you are not very stressed out in general, if you're pretty well grounded and things are going well, I think the holiday there's no blip. But if you're distressed year round and then the holiday comes, I think for most people it really ramps up the stress. I mean, I think the emergency rooms are overrun typically. I think 5150s are much more common. I think there's a lot more
what's a
uh,
5150?
like there's a concern about someone's safety
Ah, okay,
over the holidays. Like those, I don't know if that's the code everywhere. But I think that's the universal code.
okay,
But there's more concern about safety and
yeah,
psychological well-being, especially for the segment of the population that is already distressed.
yep. Which again, I think would align with a lot of, um, with that survey, and there was a lot of other surveys I found that said something similar. The percentages varied, but they were noticeably higher than I would have thought they were.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so you and I are going to spend some time talking more about the why, and we're going to talk, I think, more about just, again, the psychological why behind some of that.
But
But
can you first? Sorry to
yeah,
stop you. In my mind, it seems like obvious that the holiday would bring stress.
yep.
But for you, it's the opposite. Where you're surprised, meaning you think your perception is because people are spending time with family that they're going to feel better. Like, is it counterintuitive to you that the holidays would be stressful?
I mean, I think it's counterintuitive to my experience. It's
Okay.
not as counterintuitive to me, to my, like intellectually, like I understand it. But yeah, I mean, I get pumped, especially now that I see family members less than I used to, just
Yeah.
because I'm, busy, 2 little kids.
Yep.
Um, so I don't see them as much. So for me, it's a fun experience.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so yeah, so it's counterintuitive to my experience if that's the case. But I
Yeah.
certainly know. I mean, and I was joking about my cousins, and maybe for even for some of them, it might not be as positive as it is for me.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, you're really excited, and all your cousins are like, "Oh, okay, we gotta hang out with Rob again.
exactly,
We gotta hear about
exactly.
that Shrink Space podcast again."
He's gonna go around and make sure everyone is subscribed to this fucking podcast again. Um, no, but yeah, so it's less. Maybe surprise was the wrong word for me to say, but yeah, it's just different than my experience.
Yeah,
So again,
yeah,
that's why I do think I'm lucky in that
yeah.
regard. Um, yeah,
Well, I don't I bring it up because I think there are right, there's probably a bimodal distribution where
yeah,
there are a lot of people who it's more time with family. They don't have to do, they're not busy with school or with work. They get a focus on, making cookies and right there. I mean, I think that your experience of it isn't unique. I think a lot of people do
right.
like look at it that way. My administrative assistant could not be more excited about the holidays. Like bubbling over with excitement about the holidays, and no anxiety about it at all.
And I love that about her. And I will go into her office every now and then and just talk
Yeah.
about holidays. It's not just like Christmas, it's Halloween, it's great.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
she is great to be part of or to be
Yes.
around during the holiday season. Um, but you were mentioning, kids making cookies. What does increase my stress at this time of year is the fact that my kids are like off for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what the hell?
Yeah.
What the hell am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Like, why are
It
you off for so long?
yeah. It agreed. I yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything to say other than I don't remember getting this much time off when I was a
No.
kid. I just do not remember it being this way. I feel like teachers are working quarter time. Uh,
I I think we did. It's just, of course, when I was 10, it was great.
yeah. Yeah. And my parents loved hanging out with me. That was my perception.
Yeah,
They were happy I was home.
you were a peach.
Yeah.
Um, but no, yeah, what does increase my stress is just a lot of that. Again, love my kids. Preface, love them. They're great. Glad I have kids. And a lot of time with a 4 and a 7-year-old, especially when it's cold, you can't go outside as much. They don't want to go outside as much. So you have to kind of be a bit more in charge of what they're doing, how they're spending their time. That's stressful. So
Mhm.
that is one thing that does increase my stress related to family. So
Yeah.
anyway, so I was mentioning before we're going to spend most of our time talking about the psychological reasons, but I think it does make sense to acknowledge, hey, a part of the reason that the holidays can be stressful are for non-psychological reasons, and a big one is like financial. You mentioned financials during COVID. I think during the holiday season, this can be stressful for a lot of folks because the expectation around gift giving,
Mhm.
the expectation around for some folks traveling to family members,
Mhm.
which can be sometimes an expensive thing to do,
Mhm.
depending upon how far you're traveling.
Mhm.
The expectation to right bake cookies, decorate your house, if not for yourself, if you have kids, for kids or others who might be visiting. So there is a financial strain that I could see makes sense for a
Yeah.
lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's funny because I'm aware of the challenge with the financial strain is I think what makes it hard is there's no not only is there no oftentimes no equity as far as how who has some person has more money than somebody else,
Yep.
so you're not the same there. And I think it's difficult because you can't talk about the money.
Yeah.
So no one knows what the plane flight
Mhm.
costs. No one
Mhm.
knows what the rental car costs or what the hotel
Yeah.
costs or what the kids
Yeah.
cost, right? And then you go hang out and you're like, why is that person not kicking in? But we're not thinking about or the I got can I say one of the biggest fights that I created with my in-laws was, you know, in my family, the Colorosi side of the family, everybody always goes to California for the holidays. And if you move out of California, then the expectation is like you're going to be flying back to Cal. You moved out, you're flying back to California. and that's going to be a burden for you, but you moved away. So I have a brother that lives in Manhattan, and he flies all the way back to California, never a peep around like what the cost of that is.
Right. You
And
got
there's no
critical mass in California.
right, and there's no expectation from him that people fly out to visit him in Manhattan because it's an expensive flight. Even though right, people do visit, but it's not like an expectation.
Yeah.
In my wife's family, it's kind of the opposite. If someone travels somewhere, everybody goes to see them. And so there's a lot of expectation of traveling to see people. So it feels a little bit like, the Colorosis moved to Denver. And now we're like, hey, TikTok, everybody better be visiting the Colorosis soon. Book your tickets. And
Yeah.
that's not how I operate. And so people are saying, well, you haven't visited us here, or you haven't visited us here. And I'm going, well, who are you where you're
Yeah.
demanding that I didn't
Yeah.
move there?
Yeah.
Why are you and so that was one of the times when I suggested that maybe their expectations were unreasonable, and that created a little bit of friction, right? But it's just a different sort of
Yeah.
worldview around what travel looks like, and nobody knows what my financial position is, and I don't know what their financial position is, and we
Right.
can't talk about it,
Yeah.
and I think that creates, uh, stress.
It, I think that does. And then I think what you said is a perfect segue to the first thing I wanted to mention that is a bit
Mhm.
more psychological, which is expectations.
Yep.
Right. So I think expectations come in a lot of forms. It's, yeah, the expectation that you come travel or that you are with your family during this time of the year,
Mhm.
during holiday season. The expectation of what the interaction will be like,
Mhm.
the expectation that you give and take with other people during this time of the year, and
Mhm.
those type of get-togethers. Right, there's a lot writing on
Yes.
expectations.
Yes. And
Um,
and there's more writing if you don't see someone as much. So for you, everybody
yeah,
lives in St. Louis. So
yeah,
it's
or
not a
we have a critical mass, so it's the same as you.
yeah,
Your
okay.
California family is not everyone lives here anymore,
Uh-huh.
but the expectation is that you come to St. Louis. I mean, you don't have to, but no one's going anywhere else.
Right. 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 Um, and and you see people pretty like, how often do you see your cousins, for example? Like,
Like once every, like even those that live here, once every 3 months, 2 months, 3 months.
so it's not that I was just thinking that part of what ramps up the expectation is if I only see my, family in California once a year or twice a year,
Yeah.
then I think there's more there's maybe there's expectation as far as like what we do, but there's also expectation on my end of what's this interaction going to be like? How's it going to feel? What are they going to think of my kids? What are they going to think of me? You know what I mean? I think that same kind of expectation gets ramped up when there's distance.
Yep. Yeah, I certainly think that's the case. What resonates with me around expectations is uh, just like the actual get-togethers themselves.
Hmm.
Like I know, for example, when my parents have hosted holiday parties, usually around Christmas time, it's not always them, but it oftentimes is. They're part of the group that does this. There's a lot of expectation around what that experience will be like. And I know I've talked to my mom about this because she sets a pretty high bar for this is the experience that I want, and everything needs to happen. And sometimes I'll talk to her because she'll stress herself out a bit, and I'm like, "What are you stressing yourself out for? Like you're preparing a party for your family."
Yeah. How does that go when you give her that feedback?
I mean, better now than it used to because I'm probably not as blunt as I just said it right there. But you know, and I'll mention her here, but I have a Christmas party with my friends who live here locally every
Hmm.
year, and I make a lot of food, have drinks, decorate the house, all that stuff. My wife and I do, and I can feel that too. It's like I want the experience to be great. I want people to come. I want them to have a good time. I want the house to look really festive. I want the food to be good. If I'm going to ask people to come to my house, if I'm going to invite them over, I want the experience to be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That part does resonate with me a little bit more as well. Is yeah, I can get a bit more stressed
Hmm.
when I have that. Although I like it, I like the actual event and people coming over and hang out. I do get a little stressed about having the party itself at times.
Hmm.
What about you?
I The same. You were talking. I was pulling up on my phone here. I can show you our. I don't know if you can see that. Probably not. But what that is
No.
that's our pantry. Let me just say
Okay.
this: that's our pantry with every single shelf, depth, height, with all measured, so that I could go to the Container Store and go buy little things that slot in just perfectly, so that when you open our pantry, everything is labeled. Like you wouldn't want to have, Rob. Have you ever seen when people put cans just flat across the bottom and you don't know what cans in the back? Not for us, not now. Now we have stairs for our cans. So you walk in and you can see raised up what that's pumpkin pie can in the back.
Yes. Yes.
So you were talking about that. I was thinking like the amount of time ahead of this holiday season that I have spent labeling things, like organizing. I mean, the Container Store, I'm going to get a second mortgage to cover the amount of crap
Of
that I,
containers.
different containers, every kind of container, but our closets are lined out. They look spectacular now.
I would say I would associate you as much with the Container Store as I would with Caterpillar.
Okay, Rob. This is not fair, Rob. When I get into something, I get very intense into it.
So this is your idea.
Oh, yeah. Well, because what happens is my wife says, we need to clean this. We got to get this pantry figured out. Rob, a job worth doing is a job worth doing well.
Okay.
And then I get hyper fixated on the pantry.
Ah, there it is.
I'm
Hyperfixated.
watching Instagram videos on how to organize the cans. And then I go to Container Store and buy all the stuff. And so then I've got I even bought gaff tape. Do you know what gaff tape
I
is?
have
It's
no
like
idea
the
what gaff tape
black tape
is.
that you use like if you're on a film crew to like tape up cameras and stuff. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
like duct tape, but
Yeah.
it won't peel off it won't leave a residue when you remove it.
Okay.
And then I bought pens that write in white ink. It's like paint. So I could label on the gaff tape where everything goes in the closet or in the pantry.
Holy shit.
And hold on, Rob, just to let you just to
Whoa. I
let you know.
mean, my mind
And hold on,
it's glowing.
I have a section. This is what I'm really upset about. I have a section where it's like snacks, right? So the bottom shelf says snacks, and then in the bottom section there's a section for like beef jerky or whatever, and then there's a section for nuts. And the label I put on it says D apostrophe S nuts. D's nuts. And I went into the thing and I thought I was so clever. Okay. And then I go through the entire Thanksgiving holiday, not one person notices. Like I've done all the like the expectation for me is people are gonna walk in and open the pantry and be like, oh my God, I've never seen a more sophisticated, food storage system. No one even went in there the whole
Not a
time.
peep.
Not a peep.
So your expectations were high and your family did not live up to your expectations.
I'm pissed at him about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
stress level as a result of encountering them during the holidays has increased.
Yeah. I'm just going back and forth in front of the door. Anybody want any nuts? And you guys want to try just cashews,
Did
almonds?
you actually they're right here if you want to come grab them yourself.
Yeah.
Pun intended.
Mhm.
Um uh that
Mhm.
is yeah, I'm glad to know that about you and would have been shocked and am shocked that anything about being organized is something you spend your time doing. But
I'll
good.
send I'll send you a picture.
Okay, please do.
Yeah. But I'm over it now. So like I have like
There we go. There it is.
I have like a week and a half like
Yeah.
burst of energy and then
Yeah. Yeah.
lose interest.
You like a manic phase for a while and
Yeah.
then you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'm a real joy to live with.
I mean, it's fun to make fun of you, but I get those same things. They tend to last a little bit longer,
Uh,
but yeah, I'll get fixated on something for a while as
yeah.
well. Um, okay, so the expectation that's a big part of what can be stressful. The
Yeah.
expectation of kind of the people hosting and having these types of um, parties and get-togethers, and also the expectations of others, especially if you're coming from afar. I can imagine, again, having never traveled for the holidays, that yeah, if I get my ass on a plane, travel hundreds of miles across the country to do all this, I want the experience to be pretty positive.
Mhm. Mhm.
So my expectations might be pretty high.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so even as I'm saying this, like, for when my mom gets stressed about having people over, maybe there's a reason she should be. I'm not worried about it.
Uh-huh.
But there are people who do travel. It's like, well, maybe that experience, they want it to be pretty good because they've, you know, given up waking up,
Mhm.
if they celebrate Christmas, waking up on the 25th and just hanging out with their family or, just by themselves that day
Yeah.
because they want to be with family.
Yeah, I think it's what's interesting is you're saying that I was just thinking about, right? So your mom is preparing for family to come in. She has anxiety about it. And so she's wanting the food to be right. She's wanting the house to
Mhm.
look the right way because she has this expectation of whatever, this going off without a hitch.
Yeah, perfection.
But nobody is flying in thinking, I hope when I get to the Patterson's house that their closet is lined out.
Yeah,
Right? No
yeah,
one is going like, I hope
no,
have you ever gone to Thanksgiving and been like, that turkey better be good or I'm pissed. I'm leave if that turkey is burnt, I'm out of here. Like no
yeah,
one's right. But we put a lot of energy. I
yeah,
mean, I think it's because that's what you can control. You
yeah,
think you can control the food and what things look like. But what you should be focusing on is how am I going to make Rob or whoever, how am I going to make my cousin feel heard?
yeah,
How do I make this person feel cared about?
yep.
How do I right? But we don't put any energy there, or at least I don't ever think about that.
No, I don't either.
Why
And
not? Why do you think we don't do that?
why don't? I guess for me, I probably would more if I thought there was a need. Like
Mhm,
if I felt like someone was feeling ostracized or was feeling a bit distant, then I might make more of an active effort to
mhm,
connect with them.
mhm,
I don't feel that way when I
mhm.
get together with my family.
Okay, but why do okay, take you out of it. Uh,
Okay.
Psychoanalyze me. Why do I get passionate about the shelving system for my pumpkin pie cans, but don't spend any time thinking about how am I gonna make my sister-in-law feel connected?
Mm,
To the
okay.
fa you know what I mean? I mean, like, so there's no, like in my family, there's no problem. I'm not worried about my sister-in-law, but I don't burn any calories ahead of time worrying about I want my sister-in-law to see my D's nuts label and
Right.
think that that's cool, but I don't go, "Hey, David, remind yourself to ask about her whatever experience at work," or "What's it like at this phase of
Mm.
motherhood?" Or what you know what I mean? How I don't, like, I don't put pressure on myself to make sure that I connect with her the way that I really want to. I'm making this closet because I want my in-laws to think to be happy and to be impressed and to be whatever.
There you go.
But that's probably it, huh? I'm just really it's me all just trying to impress people.
Yeah.
It's not about caring about people.
Well, I I don't know that it's the opposite, but maybe the reason you're doing that are to impress people. And that's what's important
Mhm.
is you want to impress them.
Yeah. So why do we have the need to impress people? Why, I guess I'm what I'm but it would be more impressive to my in-laws if I sat down and talked to them longer. Like I think that would be the like if I step back and go, "Okay, David, how can you get out of this holiday what you want?" It's about putting energy towards
Yeah.
the relationship. It's not about having the clever label on your nut can. You know what I mean?
Nut can. Uh, I'm too immature to
Yeah.
have a conversation about nuts, man.
But that's right. So it's about me
Yeah.
trying to be impressive.
Yeah.
That's almost a barrier to
It could be. And and I think as you were saying that too, and I was saying, well, I don't think there's is an issue that could be presumptuous of me to assume that there's not. And I can imagine just knowing myself that part of it is, like we're here to have a good time. We're here to hang out, cut up, be light.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm not here to, ask about something super deep
Mhm.
all the time.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that part of it's just too is my personality is I enjoy those. I mean, I enjoy getting, you know, deep with folks when there's extended periods of time, but in these kind of interactions for a couple hours towards the end
Yeah.
of the year,
Yeah.
over 1 or 2 holidays, I usually don't. So that could be
Mhm.
an oversight on my end, is
Mhm.
maybe I should do that more.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
hmm, yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah.
But so I know I've derailed it, but the big thing is the what drives the anxiety is the expectations for a
That's
holiday
certainly
are
one of the things. Yep,
out of control.
yep. I think the other thing, and maybe this is part of what you were mentioning before, is at times there's a need to put up a bit of a facade. So if you don't see your relatives, family members as frequently,
Mhm.
and you elect to do so over the holiday season, what about them do you want them to what about you do you want them to know about? What are you going to have to be a bit guarded about? What are you not going to talk about?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
I know that, with my family members and, my cousins and stuff, I have had those experiences of observing them where there were things where it's like, I don't
Mhm.
want to talk about why, you know, I'm struggling in college, or I don't want to talk about why I don't have a job right now. Like, stop
Mhm.
asking. And that can actually be a barrier to people wanting to engage in a family
Yeah.
interaction, because they
Yep.
think, well, God, all they're going to do is ask me about this one thing that I obviously don't want to talk about right now.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's things that people know. There are other things about us that people may not know. At least my uncle may not know about me that I just don't want to talk about. But that is emotional work for me to keep up that facade at times.
Right.
So I can imagine that is also stressful for people during the holiday season, to have to either answer for things that aren't going as well in their life, or just keep up appearances
Mhm.
when maybe things about things that others don't know about.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. It's funny because when you I have just personally, I have less of that kind of stress,
Yeah,
which is really, I think, a luxury.
sure.
But I have the same thing. If you asked me, both my family and my in-laws, I think, may not be accurate, but I think I know what everybody thinks about me.
Yep.
I know I know that this person, whatever, thinks that I am, well, I'm trying to think of I'm trying to keep the ambiguity up enough. But like, there are people that think that they don't like my political view, and
Yep.
there's a narrative about people that have my political perspective
Sure.
that they have. And I know that there's another person that maybe thinks I'm too lax with my kids, and there's somebody else that thinks I'm too harsh with my kids. And so I do think that there's pressure for me, like in that way, where I'm keeping up a facade, in that I have to tell myself not to worry about these sort of satellite people that I see very infrequently and
Yep.
what they think. When I moved into this house and we had people over, I was going like, well, how is this person or these people going to feel about this house? Or how are they going to feel about my car? And I have anxiety about that. Um, and trying to manage all of those, the impressions of all those different people,
Yeah.
which is the
Yeah.
same kind of thing. And I
Yeah.
think um, it is even worse if you personally have shame about things in your life.
Yes.
Right? These are like how I parent, and the house I have and the car I drive are the decisions I've made and that I'm happy with, and I still feel anxious about it. But I can't imagine if I had just lost my job and was embarrassed by it,
Yep.
that would make it really difficult.
Yep. Yep. So, yeah, that makes a ton of sense to me as
Mhm,
well.
mhm.
Another thing that occurs to me, and I think partly based on things that you shared before, so I'll ask you to talk about this more, is some people can feel anxious interacting with family members more because of like a kind of anxiety about, certain maybe parents, aunts and uncles, things that might be a little bit older, like, thinking, how much more time am I going to have with them?
Yeah.
How, they're 85. Is this the last time grandma's going to be part of our Thanksgiving celebration, of our Christmas celebration this year? Um,
Mhm,
I, I think when you and I have talked a little bit about this before, just casually, I've thought, yeah, that really wasn't something that I don't think that I'm as aware of personally.
Yeah.
But I can imagine it's more situational, but there could be people for whom that's just more of part of their general anxiety. So
Yeah.
maybe talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, let's get dark for a second. So I don't so I don't think that people walk around, you know, uh, with a calendar being like, it's gonna end soon.
Yeah,
But I think that subconsciously, we sort of know that that's true, and, for me, there are times when I've sort of thought through, "Okay, here's how old my grandparents are."
sure.
I have a grandfather, and he is 87 years old.
Yeah.
I see him twice a year maybe,
Yep.
and I go, "Oh my gosh, well, I see him twice a year maybe, and every other year I spend the Christmas holiday with my wife's family. So now it's once a year. Maybe I only see him 6 more times."
Yeah.
And I think that, like, when I think about that, I go like, "Oh my god, I don't have the relationship that I wanna have with him. I don't know how to create the relationship with him
Yeah.
that I would like to have. What does he feel
Yeah.
like? How does he?" And it gives me, and then I go see him, and I'm like, uh, "Hi," but I don't know how to, like, bridge that gap, but I am aware, I think, that there's this sort of there's a timeline for everybody. And I also think that same, for him, for people that are older, I think it's more front of mind. But I even think for parents and people that are, you know, aging, I think we may not be totally aware of it, but I think it is at some level clicking in our minds that we only see this person once or twice a year, and we maybe have 20 more or 10 more times that we're going to see each other. And I think that undercurrent puts pressure on the interaction. And if it doesn't go well, like the thing that's in my mind is, we go back for Christmas. There's going to be a political discussion. If my grandfather and I see things differently, do we spend one of the 5 last times I'm gonna see him
Yeah.
arguing about Harris versus Trump? And I think
Yeah.
that puts pressure on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that.
Mm.
That makes sense. Like it's more stress inducing to think about it. And then you're like, all right, well, someone's going to talk about this around me anyway. What do I do? Do I engage or do I
Mhm.
not?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that psychological distress, like, at its base level, is caused mostly by fear of being alone and fear of, I'm not meaning to do the thumbs up, fear of being alone and fear of not making your time here meaningful. And I think the fact that we die when we don't know what's going to happen, like, you don't know I'm going to die at this age, so I have this amount of time. It's just always out there. We may die, who knows? It could be tomorrow. And I think the ambiguity about that, and this, like, idea that we may or may not have gotten done what we wanted to get done when we're here, creates stress. And that stress can lead to anxiety, or it can lead to depression, or it can lead to something in between. But I
Sure.
think it creates, like, a lot of psychological pressure
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we're alone, we're going to die, we don't know when it is, and we're responsible for making meaning of this in some way.
Sure.
And so I think that gets magnified at the holidays.
Yep. That makes sense.
That's my existential spiel for the week, but that's what I think's happening.
Let's see how many people have turned off as a
Yeah,
result
I
of
know.
this.
Sorry.
The the last one that I'll bring up is, and I think we've talked a little bit about this through some of the other examples, is nostalgia. So I can imagine. So as an example, so nostalgia are kind of remembering the ways that we had these traditions and things that went on when we were younger or in the past, and wanting those to continue, but not realizing that the people and the environment has changed. So I'll share an example where really into Christmas, always have been, would help. You know, we would do a lot of decorating in our house growing up. When I got older, I would help my grandparents do stuff in their house because they couldn't do it all. Especially my grandma, who was, my grandpa died, when she was in her like early 60s, and so she lived to like 90 something. And so she lived alone a lot, so I would go over there and help her out. So I had a lot of these very positive memories around the Christmas season in particular. But in our house, we would do a Christmas tree thing. Like when we were little kids, my dad would have like an old school camcorder and make us sing in front of the Christmas tree. So me and my sister would do that. Me a bit more happily, her a bit more begrudgingly. Um, but as we got older, I would still want to come do some of those things. I wouldn't sing anymore, but you know,
Um,
decorate the house, decorate the tree, things like that. And I remember my sister like, "Why are we still doing this?
uh-huh,
Like, aren't we done?"
uh-huh.
I'd get so pissed. Like, why? Why are you trying to change this thing? You have nothing else to do. Get over it. But I think over time, what I came to figure out is, well, why am I holding on to this as much?
Right.
I mean, why does she have to be here? If she doesn't want to for whatever reason or can't make it, that
Yeah.
doesn't stop me from doing it. But I think a lot of that was just my desire for things to be the same.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so that was maybe not anxiety provoking for me, but it was frustrating for me. And that happened a couple of years. I was like, all right, well, she's not going to come. Whatever. She can make a big deal about it.
Uh-huh.
But it was only later on I'm like, well, I'm making the big deal about it.
Right. Yeah.
And then fast forward to now, I have kids, and so now it is a more of a thing again because I think especially for Christmas and Hanukkah and stuff like that, I would imagine, right? Having little kids can make the holiday a bit, can get people into it a little bit more. At least it does for me.
Mhm. It does for me too. It's been I'm trying it's such a like a cliche thing, but I do think that there's sort of like when you're a kid, nothing is better than the holiday. And then you don't have kids and you're like, whatever.
Yeah.
Then you have kids and now holidays are cool again because you get to do it for them.
Yeah.
I think that is true. I hadn't thought about it until you said the nostalgia thing, but I think that does put, when I was growing up, uh, the holidays were all like they felt like there was endless food, there was endless love,
Right.
but you're just there like as a kid, you're the center of attention constantly, or like not center of attention, but you're everybody's excited to see you. There's
Yeah.
no judgment about a
Yeah.
7-year-old.
Yeah.
Right? It's just there's no expectation. You don't have, and I think that so yeah. I mean, I do. When you said that, I was like, yeah, I wish it felt like I wish I knew it was
Yeah.
going to feel like Christmas used to feel when I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
Because that was, I mean, I remember my uncles getting a tree like that was a 14-foot tree and putting it up in my grandma's um, house and like watching them do that and being able to help decorate the
Yeah.
tree like was such a magic. I still remember it today.
Yeah.
But like I know now if you said, "Hey, you're going to go buy a $180 tree and you're going to pull it into that house and I would be like, "Oh, you got to be kidding."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that, and it's
Yeah.
that the pressure of, at least for me now, that doing it and then trying to maintain the nostalgia, also
Yeah.
stressful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the other part of it that maybe that's a good point. That's what can be stressful, maybe, and maybe less frustrating, which is that if you are someone, and I think I am here, who wants to keep that going. So you were saying before, like you're a little kid excited, less excited when you're in your 20s, you don't have kids, or if you never have kids,
Yep.
and then you get more excited if you do. I,
Mhm.
I don't think mine ever dipped all that much. My
Oh,
excitement around it
yeah.
didn't really dip.
And and your sister's like, "Rob, there's no kids here.
Yeah, she's like,
Why
dude,
why are
why?
you
Like,
still
what?
wearing a onesie?"
Yeah. I bought everyone onesies. No one wants to wear these. Uh, Um, so yeah, so I think that's probably a part of it too. Is
Mhm.
for at least anyone else like me who kind of is really excited about it over time and it don't have that kind of life cycle. It's
Mhm.
different, yeah,
Mhm.
and it can be I think stress inducing to think that okay at some point in the future this isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Like when my kids are older and they don't want to do this as much, I'm not going to like that. That's going to
Mhm.
suck for me.
Mhm. Yeah.
So well, Dave, those are the kind of reasons that I had thought about.
And
Did
that
we
was
miss
good.
anything?
No, I thought that was good, and I hadn't even thought about the nostalgia thing. I think that, yeah, that was that was helpful. That was good.
Okay. So again, As we mentioned, next week we'll be talking a bit more about those family and friend caricatures, as I'll call it. So
Mhm.
we'll be having a conversation about that in preparation for that conversation. If you all have family members, friends that you interact with during the holiday season, and you would like some pointers from us, please feel free to send an email to us giving us just a sense of the person and what's difficult about them during the holiday season. And we'll take a look and try to talk about one or two of those on the next episode. So you can email us at shrinkspaceshow@gmail.com. Also, feel free to like and subscribe wherever you're listening to us right now. Dave, what did I miss? Ah, whoa.
Well, look at the tech,
Shrink
huh?
Space Show. That's fancy.
I think you got it all. You can send us an email with the like describing the situation or the person, generally, or if you want, you can get very specific. Send us audio clips or video clips, and we can play those also on the show, which would be really cool. And we'll give some advice about how to deal with these different kinds of people.
Yeah, that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All
All
right,
right.
everyone.
Thank you all.
Bye. Bye, Dave.
Rob.